The following is my own opinion and not the opinion of any studios I have worked for in the past or will work for in the future. All movie footage shown is owned by their respective copyright holders. When thinking back through the decades of depictions of Santa Claus in movies, one major overlooked factor stands out. Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, Pierre Noël is kind of pathetic. What can we, as artists, learn from the Coca-Cola mascot's failings? Let's do a quick overview of some of the most famous examples of the character in film to find out. Miracle on 34th Street. Now in this one, Santa is angry because an actor in a Thanksgiving Day parade isn't doing a good job portraying him. In a brilliant show of micromanaging, he takes the job from the inebriated faux elf and participates in the parade. Shouldn't he be, I don't know, at the North Pole preparing for the upcoming worldwide once-a-year event he's spearheading next month? Santa's not only a perfectionist when it comes to his image here, but he's wildly negligent when it comes to his one job. He spends much of the movie ensnared in promoting a store and trying to win over a cynical child. It's a good thing he doesn't have anything better to do. Santa then proceeds to physically assault some jerk, yay, and then get locked in a mental institution where he's so broken up about not being able to convince anyone that he's the real Christmas deal that he decides to just give up the whole being Santa thing and sulk for a while. Santa Claus, ladies and gentlemen, what a problem solver. He's eventually vindicated in a court of law through a dubious legal loophole, but really doesn't do anything to help himself out of the mess his pity party created. In this movie, Santa is controlling, childish, sulky, and Santa isn't very good at his job. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This Santa Claus needs to die. He kicks off the holiday cheer by mocking his lead reindeer's baby son for a physical defect. We later get a peek into his organization, and it feels more like slave labor than anything else. Elves are forced to be cheery, and outside interests are not only quashed, but openly mocked. When a snowstorm hits and visibility is reduced, Santa is ready to cancel Christmas for the year. So you're telling me a massive snowstorm in the winter on the North Pole is unusual? You'd think he'd have some sort of plan in place for this already. Suddenly, Santa's all about Rudolph because his so-called physical defect can benefit Santa in some way. Not only is this Santa terrible at his job in this classic Christmas tale, but I also want to see Rudolph kick him off a cliff. The Nightmare Before Christmas. In this movie, Santa isn't good at his job, but it's kinda not his fault this time. He's caught in the middle of a really weird hostage situation and does what he can to fix everything afterwards, so moving on from this one. One of the rare examples of a somewhat competent Santa Claus. The Santa Claus. Santa is on a rooftop. Classic. Someone on the sidewalk shouts at him, and he immediately slips, falls, and dies. Seeing as how his whole shtick kind of involves rooftops, it really seems like Santa wasn't very good at his job if someone who is shouting at him is enough to break his concentration fatally. The shouting schmo on the sidewalk is now the new Santa Claus. He too is terrible at it, and must be handheld through the entire process by a legion of elves and his young son. For the majority of this movie, Santa isn't very good at his job. Elf. An orphan child climbs into Santa's sack. The jolly old fellow doesn't even notice and takes him to the North Pole. This clause is literally a lawsuit waiting to happen. Santa is not good at his job. Due to a lack of Christmas spirit, Santa's sleigh later crashes in Central Park. Seeing as how Mr. Claus is basically the embodiment of Christmas spirit, this seems like an excuse or something easily preventable with a backup engine or something. You're telling me humanity in the past hasn't had a lack of Christmas spirit before? The solution? A child must go on television to reinvigorate the Christmas spirit within the populace writ large by singing a Christmas carol. Santa's job? He isn't very good at it. The Polar Express. Okay, this is weird. This movie is terrible. But for once, Santa is actually pretty great at being Santa in this one, so yeah. Arthur Christmas. Santa is past his prime in this movie. He very nearly ruins Christmas through sheer clumsiness when it begins. His role in the whole Christmas Eve delivery service at this point is mostly symbolic, as his organization is far more capable and competent than he is. Right off the bat, the main theme of the movie is Santa isn't very good at his job. Much of the film is concerned with how to replace him, and honestly, too few people have even seen this movie, and you should. It's great. So I'm just gonna move on here. Point made, watch Arthur Christmas. This list wasn't the most comprehensive, but I do think it hits nearly every widely popular movie featuring Santa Claus himself as a pivotal character. Overall, you'll notice Santa Claus isn't good at his job, and I think there's an excellent reason why. The character is generally seen as very giving, kind, accepting, and empathetic. He's capitalist Jesus Christ. But a character with no flaws in a film can be a pretty boring character, and who better to help him through his struggle than someone the target audience can relate to, a child. At the end of each film, Santa's abilities and title never seem to be enough to save the day. By the time credits roll, it's usually the belief of those around him which elevates him through the conflict and helps him hold himself to higher standards. As filmmakers, we often feel we don't measure up. But then it's not always about our immediate abilities, but about our intent, our dedication, and about surrounding ourselves with people who will push us to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Santa Claus isn't good at his job, but people love him anyways. He's about something bigger than his title. He represents hope, compassion, charity, and selflessness. You can be the most skilled person in the world, but if you can't inspire your friends, your team, and your audience, then your talent is one present nobody wants to open. This has been Cinema Cemetery, digging 6 feet deeper into film and culture.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't.
If you want to see some of the episodes we've made in the past, check out the playlist tab on our YouTube channel page.
It's also all organized on our website.
On that website, use the contact form to sign up for our free electronic monthly magazine.
It's packed with behind-the-scenes breakdowns, channel data, polls, and even discounts on our boutique.